Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. This is the weekly premium video. This one is going to be on timing of a local top or market cycle top for Bitcoin and a local top or altcoin market cycle top for the rest of the market. Okay, this is going to be an important video, and I cannot stress enough how timing these things is fairly important, okay? Especially if we do go up the risk bands. All right, we're not doing it yet, right? Bitcoin's still hanging out at what, 65K or something. We still have a ways to go. But if it happens, you'll want to respond accordingly, okay? So let's talk about a few things. One of the things we want to talk about are a local top versus a market cycle top, right? And back in April, if you guys remember, we speculated back then that it was not a market cycle top, but at the very least, it was a local top, right? We said it's a local top. Look, we're going to put a new all-time highs this market cycle, but we need 3 to 6 months to consolidate. And we even put out a video right before the crash, actually, a premium video, I believe. And we said, the middle game. Maybe some of you guys will remember that. It was called the middle game. We're basically saying, look, guys, market is about to change here for a while, okay? And we want to be prepared for that, all right? Now, what is important about market cycle peaks or local peaks? Well, first of all, a peak is somewhat of a fluid term. It depends on what you're talking about. The local high or a market cycle high for Bitcoin is probably going to happen at a different point in time than it would for Ethereum. And then the market cycle top for Ethereum is probably going to happen at a different time than the market cycle peak for a lot of altcoins. And I told you guys back then, Ethereum's usually the last to make its move. And by the way, Ethereum's been looking great all year long. But what I'm saying is when Ethereum goes parabolic, right? And it will go parabolic. It's just a matter of time. When it goes parabolic, it usually is the last one to run, okay? In terms of putting in like 2x in a couple weeks. Now, that doesn't mean that some altcoins won't go up later. It just means that Ethereum tends to be the last one to make major gains before a fairly significant drop. There can still be a couple of coins that still put in nice gains, even when Ethereum is doing well, or maybe even after Ethereum has put in a local high. I think Matic was one of the ones back in April, or back in May, that was doing relatively well during the Ethereum tsunami. So it's not that there can't be any coins, it's just that the majority of coins that have not pumped, by the time the Ethereum tsunami occurs, they're just likely not going to, right? So the argument, right? The argument is, well, why not just cut your losses, right? Or at least protect yourself to some degree and say, you know what? Sometimes you pick a dud, right? Sometimes you might pick a dud, and you just have to recognize that. And that's why I think slight diversification is good, over diversification is bad, because if you over diversify, then you spread yourself too thin. So remember, there's a big difference between a Bitcoin market cycle top or a local top, and then the altcoin market cycle top or local top. All right. Now, back in April, we said it's a local top. Back in April and May, we said it's a local top, not a market cycle top. Now, there is a good chance that the next one could be the market cycle top, but I would argue it will depend on how high we go, okay? Because if we don't, let's just suppose that Bitcoin goes to 100K or something and then has a pullback, it might seem like a market cycle top to a lot of people, but I would speculate it's probably not, right? We're going to have pullbacks along the way. I don't think anyone's under the impression that we're just going to go straight up and not have any pullbacks. Well, we will have pullbacks along the way, so we still have a lot of work to do, I think, to get to a market cycle top. My speculation, as it's always been, is we should get to approximately a market capitalization of 10 trillion for the entire asset class, okay? Now, plus or minus a few trillion, depends on when it happens, okay? Depends on when it happens. If it happens this year, then we probably won't make it to 10 trillion. If it happens next year, we probably will make it to 10 trillion. If it happens in 2023, then we'll probably overshoot 10 trillion, all right? So it depends on when it happens. Now, we want to look at some charts here that go over these sort of tops and how you kind of navigate them. And one of the things is that the local top for Bitcoin tends to occur several weeks before the total or altcoin market cap top, right? Back in April and May, you can see it's around 29 days. Now, another thing to consider is that the altcoin market cycle top or local top tends to occur simultaneously with a Bitcoin dead cat bounce. All right, that's what it tends to occur with, a dead cat bounce by Bitcoin. Now, back in May, it was a dead cat bounce, right? We went from 50, we went all the way down to 50K, and then we bounced up back to 60K. And then that's when, all right, everyone's screaming, look, we're going to go to 100K, we're going to go to 300K by September, whatever it is, right? Well, we don't, right? We come back down. And it's during that dead cat bounce by Bitcoin that you see altcoins surge. And, by the way, that's when the Ethereum tsunami occurs. People are asking me, hey, is this the Ethereum tsunami? No, I mean, this is just business as usual for Ethereum. We're still below the 0.5 risk level. So this is not an Ethereum tsunami. This is just, I mean, it's sort of like vertical accumulation. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's what it is. I think it's what it is. I mean, we're just in accumulation, but it's really heavy accumulation. So much, in fact, that rather than trending sideways, we're trending up, but we're not going parabolic. As you can know, we're still below the 0.5 risk level, okay? So, look at this. Does a Bitcoin market cycle top mean you need to be completely out of the market? Probably not, right? Because a lot of times it's on the dead cat bounce where all the altcoins go crazy, if they haven't already gone crazy. And by the way, altcoins will still go crazy before the dead cat bounce. Some of them can still do really well before the dead cat bounce. It's not like you had to wait until January of 2018 before you saw any returns by altcoins. I mean, ADA was already at, it was back in, I don't remember exactly, but it was back in like November or something when it was like 2 cents. This was like back in 2017, and then it rallied to 13 cents, and then 33 cents, and then 39 cents, and then like 76 cents, and then it went to $1.38 in January. But look at the time difference. Okay, so the idea of a local top for the entire asset class, it just simply doesn't really exist that much because it depends on what your definition is. And the one for Bitcoin is not the one for the entire market, not for the one for, say, the altcoin market. Okay, 29 days. Now let's go look at another example. Back in 2017, 2018, you can see that the time was 21 days. And what you'll notice too is that the altcoin market cap occurred at a peak on a dead cat bounce by Bitcoin, all right? And this was actually a dead cat bounce that ushered in the long bear market. But again, at least we said, look, this is a local top back in April or May, not a market cycle top. We should be able to put in new all-time highs. But back in 2018, we were not able to put in new all-time highs anytime soon. That was the bear market, right? That was the bear market, the long accumulation phase. We will have one of these in the future. I mean, I know some people are speculating it'll just never happen again. But look, I mean, we're still going to have bear markets in the future. Make no mistake about it. But I would encourage you to stick around the cryptoverse during the bear market because that's where the real money is made. I know that might not sound like it makes sense because you might say, well, I mean, I'm making a lot of money right now. But remember, it's when in the bear market you get in early, okay? And there's going to be a whole lot to speculate on in the next market cycle for crypto. Some of the things that are going to be highly speculative, I think, that'll probably do quite well. They're already doing well this market cycle, but I'm sort of thinking that the gaming stuff, right? There's a lot of gaming stuff. There's also the metaverse plays, right? And there's plenty of low market capitalization cryptocurrencies, altcoins, that you can make money on going through the gaming or the metaverse route. I mean a lot of Ethereum will give you exposure to this stuff, right? But if you want to go be riskier, there's certainly those coins. We don't really talk about those coins on this channel. But my general thinking kind of on the gaming stuff is that it's still super early, right? It's still super early on the gaming stuff. And there's probably a lot of projects that are popping up right now that are very likely to just be cash grabs. And they're not super serious about making it a sustainable ecosystem. And they're just saying, oh, well, if we just pair gaming with crypto, people are going to FOMO in and we'll take their money. Right, so that's sort of what I think. Now, there are some projects that are actually further along, of course. I'm not saying that all projects are like that, but there's a few legitimate projects, okay? And then you probably are going to have 100 different ones that are just complete cash grabs. And what's going to happen in the bear market is those are going to get flushed out. And then for the next market cycle, gaming cryptos are probably going to do quite well. And then stuff related to the metaverse. I think the metaverse is an exciting thing, but I also think that we're quite a long ways away from really having where 99% of our lives are just spent online, right? I don't think that's coming It's not coming next year. Okay, it's not coming next year. But I mean, we are heading in that direction. We're heading in the direction of where just people are online more, and they're going to start valuing what they have in the metaverse, maybe more than some of their physical assets, if that makes sense. This is one of those things that a lot of people don't necessarily want to happen, but it's probably one of those things that's going to happen whether you want it to or not. Okay. But anyways, going back to these charts, we can see that the altcoin market cap occurred about 29 days after back in 2021, back in April and May 2021. In 2018, 2017, it was about 21 days. So we had three weeks between this one, 4 weeks between this one, a little over 4 weeks. So what we can say is, look, 3 to 5 weeks is probably the time frame after a major top by Bitcoin. Okay, and it's not going to necessarily be the easiest to know when that occurs, but one way we can know is if Bitcoin goes up to the highest risk bands, right? If it goes up to the highest risk bands and then pops back and then pulls back down and then sort of goes back up, and you see Ethereum leading that rally like we see like we will see during dead cat balances by Bitcoin, that's usually near the end. And it's at least near the end of a local top. It's not always a market cycle top, as we saw back in April and May, but it's at least usually the end of a local top at the very least. And the reason why it's interesting, we're probably heading that way again. I mean, we're probably gearing up. I mean, clearly we have a long way to go because Ethereum's not even at the 0.5 risk level right now. But then what's Ethereum at, like 4,600, 4,700 or something? So yeah, I mean, I would still argue you have a ways to go, but look for that, right? Look for Bitcoin going up to the highest risk band, having some major shakeout, and then a dead cat bounce back up. And during that dead cat bounce, if Ethereum's leading the rally, you're probably pretty close, to the end within a couple weeks. Okay, the Ethereum tsunami usually happens over the course of a couple of weeks. Okay, and when that occurs, it can be somewhat stressful if you don't actually have a plan, because the whole idea is you DCA out, okay? And if you think about it, back in 2018, if you sold some Ethereum at say $900 and then the next day it went up to $1,000 and you sold some there too, and then it kept going up, you just keep selling, right? You don't worry about it going up too high and saying like, oh, I missed out, I shouldn't have sold. You're not going to time the top exactly, right? You're just simply not going to. It's more important, I think, to just take profits and then just, there's going to be another lull in the market, right? Whether it's a 3 to 6 month one or a macro bear market remains to be seen. And I think, it will depend on how high we go. But this is certainly something to keep an eye out for. Now, this is interesting because, this is showing the Bitcoin dominance, and then we're color coding it by the market, the peak until the altcoin market cap peak. Okay, so the red is where Bitcoin had its market cycle peak, where it starts, and then the end is when the altcoin market cap peaked. Okay, and it's pretty interesting, right? It's pretty interesting. You can see how quickly the altcoin market cap goes down after that time. The Bitcoin dominance goes down during that time. So look for something like that. Look for a complete wipeout of the dominance at some point later on in the cycle, typically following a nice rally by Bitcoin first. Okay. So yeah, you can see here as well where we are. The black line here is where Bitcoin reached 0.9 risk. Okay. And you can see what happened. That's when altcoins start to go crazy because everyone's taking profits out of Bitcoin and then they're speculating in altcoins. Okay, so the black line is Bitcoin reaches 0.9 risk, and then the red line is until the market cycle peak of altcoins. Now this one's interesting because it color codes the Bitcoin dominance by the risk of Bitcoin. Right, and you'll notice the dominance really starts to shoot down when the Bitcoin risk gets really, really high. Okay, so if we see the Bitcoin risk going up to these higher risk bands again, like 0.75, 0.85, 0.95, what you'll see, when it's doing that, Bitcoin dominance will likely be going up some, and then it'll turn over and then quickly drop down after that happens. So that's what you want to be on the lookout for. And when it starts dropping, it can drop for weeks or months before it turns around. It doesn't happen in a day, usually not even a couple weeks, but it can last a while. All right. So from there, let's go take a look at what Bitcoin's doing. All right, so we've already started off the week pretty strong. Bitcoin is now at 65.2. Okay, we're at 65.2. But again, these are not prices to get out of bed for or anything. The risk level on Bitcoin is 0.543. Clearly, we're not even at the 0.6 risk band yet. In order for Bitcoin to get to 0.6 risk, we need to go up to 75, 76K. And again, this is moving up every single day. So the longer it takes us to get there, the higher that number is actually going to be. All right. So again, Bitcoin right now is trading for just over $65,000. We know that the Bitcoin dominance has been dropping recently. So this is a shorter time frame. The Bitcoin dominance has been dropping recently, but still, I mean, I'd still say it's too early to call on whether it's not or it is going to go up in Q4. We started Q4 at a Bitcoin dominance of around 41.7%. Right now we're at 43.65. If Bitcoin really starts to move, we know that it leaves everything else behind. The issue is that if it just kind of hangs out here or something, then altcoins will then rally again, okay? My strategy has not changed, let me be clear. As you guys know, since Bitcoin is above 0.5, I'm not DCAing Bitcoin, all right? Now, I've said before, if you don't have a Bitcoin position or you're not comfortable with where your Bitcoin position is, then you can DCA up to a high risk level. But I went super heavy into Bitcoin for, from May, June, July, August, September, and then early October, I believe. And I'm because I went super heavy Bitcoin, I'm happy with my Bitcoin position, and I've been focusing on Ethereum accumulation. Majority of my weekly DCA is going to Ethereum for the last 6 or 7 weeks or so. All right. So 70% still of my weekly DCA into Ethereum every single week. As long as it's below, what is it? 0.5 risk, right? As long as it's below 0.5 risk, 70% of my weekly buys go into Ethereum. If you go look at Ethereum, 0.5 risk is now at $4,900, all right? It's not going to take it very long for it to be at $5,000. So generally the argument's going to be, as long as Ethereum's below 5K, you can still make the case that it's worth a DCA, all right? I'm still going to be buying majority Ethereum, okay? I've said before, I think DOT is a solid buy up to $60, right? I think it's a solid buy up to $60. You guys know I like AVAX. That one's approaching $100. Current risk on that's 0.611. Note the risk confidence on AVAX and DOT is still relatively low, so do take that into account. If you don't have a position in either of them, I don't necessarily think it's worth waiting around for. You can just DCA it up to a higher risk level, okay? ADA, I said back then, right? I said before smart contracts, look, we're gonna rally into smart contracts, and then we're gonna have a lull following it, and then this is the box we drew. Right? This is the box we drew. I said this is the box that ADA is gonna need to make it to in time before I think we're gonna see a rally by ADA. And so far we're actually trying to hold the bull market support band. And this line, if you're curious, it goes from mid-November until mid-March. That's sort of the range where I see ADA breaking out, okay? We haven't made it there yet. We can always go back up earlier, but I don't really see us putting in new all-time highs until at least somewhere in this box. And maybe that's not as helpful today as it was a couple months ago when I was talking about this. But back over here, I said, look, guys, it's going to be a few months before we really can continue this run. We need to have a lull. People are going to wonder who's actually going to use Cardano and whatnot. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, there's going to be some changes coming to this soon, and we're actually, we're working on the actual website and stuff to make that better and automating some of that stuff. I do think you guys are going to like the development on the website over the next several months because we are working hard on adding new things. But one of the things I'm considering doing is getting rid of the small positions tab and then just kind of lumping it in all with all the coins I hold, and then sorting them by the percentage in my portfolio. Okay, so that you guys know where the percentage, like is Bitcoin above Ethereum? Is Ethereum above what? Right now, Bitcoin is above Ethereum, but my next largest position after Ethereum, it's actually more or less tied between Polkadot and ADA. And then after that, it's Avalanche. And after that, it's Link. And then after that, it's Matic. I mean, that's like sort of in order the top 7 positions I have in my portfolio. It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA and DOT are more or less tied right now. Then Avalanche, then Link, and then Matic. All right. Now, I'm considering liquidating Maker, Celsius, and Uni. I'm considering it, but I'm not doing it now. I don't want to do it now, mainly because they have been bleeding against Ethereum for a while. I'm hoping that I can liquidate them to Ethereum at a better time, perhaps when they're rallying, but before a potential Ethereum tsunami or something. Okay, so I don't think now's the right time, but it is certainly something on my radar that there's I'd say there's a high probability that whenever Maker, Celsius, and Uni rally, or if they rally, then I would take some of those profits back to Ethereum. Okay, right now you can see Maker is actually doing fairly well this week. Okay, so that is certainly something we'll want to continue to watch. Right, it's up. You can see it's up 27%. So I'm glad I haven't sold on it yet. But if it does continue to rally and say go up the risk bands, then I'll be quick to take profits back to Ethereum, because look, every once in a while I like to just sort of consolidate my portfolio and not have so many different coins floating around. It definitely makes handling local tops easier, market cycle tops easier, to just have fewer coins you have to worry about. But again, right now, I'll just clarify one more time, I'm not selling them. In fact, I still think Uni's going to do well. I'm glad I have a position in Uni. The problem, as you guys know, is that Uni ETH, it's a bleeder. And, I don't really want to have a lot of bleeders in my portfolio, right? Now, you could argue, though, this is sort of why I'm still holding on, is that, look, bleeder or oscillators still come back down to the bottom of the range before going back up. So it's certainly still possible that this is just the bottom of the range and that Uni is going to bounce and come back up this way. That would be ideal. And it would be on sort of something like a bounce like that as it comes back up, where I would want to take it back to Ethereum. Okay, so I don't want to get rid of it yet. We don't fully know yet. I still think Uni is a good token, but it's been bleeding against Ethereum since March, right? Since March. What's another one? Maker. Maker ETH. It's been bleeding. Okay, so what am I looking for on this one? I'd like to see a bounce against the US dollar and against Ethereum and move up a little bit. If it does, I'll go back to ETH with it. All right, that's what I'm looking for. Again, I'm not liquidating them yet. That's what I'm looking for. Now, BNB, this is one I picked up last week, as I said. I think it was actually like less than $600 last week. I don't remember exactly, but it's actually done quite well. I'm pretty happy that it's continued to do well. So BNB is now one I do have in my portfolio, as I mentioned. It's currently at 0.373 risk. I would recommend not going after it after 0.4. All right, so if you want a position, as I said last week, you can get a position, but I would not chase it above 0.4 risk, which today corresponds to 744. All right, so keep that in mind. Some altcoins, I think it's worth taking less risk on, and with BNB, I think below 0.4 risk makes sense. All right, and then there's other projects, right? There's Luna, there's Solana, and some of these projects. Solana is extremely centralized. Just so you guys know, I've had people ask me, like, why is Solana not in your top picks? Like, has Solana done exceptionally well? It has. It's been doing really well against Ethereum. But look, it's extremely centralized, and like 60% of the supply, I think, is with VCs. And I just don't want a huge chunk of my portfolio tied up in Solana. Okay? Especially at this stage in the market cycle. I've always said before, look, there's always going to be some coins that you're going to sort of miss out on, because you never really know which ones are going to perform the best. Solana, I do have a small position in it now, as you guys can see, and I said a few days ago, just so I'm more apt to talk about it, right? So I'm more apt to talk about it. But I really do value decentralization a lot, and it's extremely centralized, right? It's extremely expensive to run a node. You basically have to, let's put it's really expensive. Okay, most people can't afford to run a node on Solana just because of how expensive it is. And that doesn't really sit super well with me. But with that said, does the market care about that? Maybe not. And you can see Solana's continue to do quite well. And for the duration of the bull market, it probably will continue to do well. Okay, and I have a small position in it. I'll ride it up as far as it'll go, but just note these positions are still relatively small. I'm more so doing it not because I think people should follow my lead, but just so I'm more likely to talk about them, because I know a lot of people like Solana, etc. Luna, I also have a position, as I mentioned, it's currently at $50, so that one's actually up as well this week. A lot of things are. So from there, DOT continues to look amazing. It's now at $52. We have the Polkadot parachains coming up really soon. You do have to lock your DOT up. So if you want to participate in those, keep that in mind. You have to lock your DOT up, and you will get the native tokens that you're locking them up for, of course. But you are locking your DOT up, so keep that in mind. Link is, it's still doing okay against the US dollar, but against Ethereum, it's more or less continuing to bleed, or maybe not bleed. It has been bleeding, of course, for over a year, but it's been sort of moving sideways for the last few weeks. I'm not currently DCAing Link until it actually moves back up. All right. People keep asking me, well, did you sell your Link? I haven't sold my Link. I still have my position, but I'm not going to add to it until we're back up here. And then the argument can go from there. Well, isn't this the better time to buy? Well, look, I've been mostly buying Ethereum, and for a few weeks now since I said I'm not going to be buying Link, and Ethereum is doing pretty well. Okay, so I don't regret the decision. Now, if Link comes back up here, then I'll start to get interested again, and then I'll start to DCA it again. But the thing is, I don't want to chase a falling knife. I'd rather DCA Ethereum until Link proves itself to me that it can come back up and turn this around. Because if all it's going to do is keep doing this, then I'd just be better off DCing Ethereum anyways, and Ethereum's less risky. That's the argument, okay? So I still have my Link position. I get asked that all the time. I still have it. I'm not adding to it. I'm mainly adding to Ethereum, as I mentioned, Polkadot, Matic. I do pick up some ADA as well. I have been picking up a little bit of ADA as well. And those are the main 3 and 4, primarily Ethereum, DOT, and Matic. But there's certainly some other decent projects. Like VeChain's a decent project. Obviously, BNB is still below 0.4 risk. XRP is sort of like it could go either way, right? It could have one of those parabolic rallies. Will the SEC bring it down its deck? It's hard to really know. I do have a small position in XRP that I got last year. Okay, so if it rallies, I'll cover it. But I don't know. I don't really know what the likelihood of that is. I know a lot of people are really bullish on it and are calling for, crazy high prices like 20x, 30x. So I have a small position in it. I'm ready for it if it happens, but I'm not adding to it. So there you have it, right? We covered a lot. I do think it's really important that people sort of know the timing of local tops, market cycle tops, and then how Ethereum behaves, how altcoins will behave when that time comes. We're not there yet, right? We're not there yet. We're not even at any all-time high. Bitcoin's at 65K still. So we still have a ways to go. And I would still argue that time is on our side. Could we have shakeouts along the way? Yeah, we probably will, right? Whether we go up here and then shake out like this along the way, or if we come back down and then go back up. I still think we'll have shakeouts along the way, but this still does provide a time to accumulate crypto. And what I do is, again, I accumulate as long as this is below 0.7. As long as the total crypto market cap is below 0.7, I'll accumulate crypto. Once it goes above 0.7, it's too risky. It's too risky for me, and then I put my money elsewhere. Okay, that doesn't mean I necessarily sell crypto right away, but I'm not adding to crypto at that point. All right. So I think that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Leave any comments down below, and I'll try to answer those. I'll see you guys next time.